You can start a dropshipping store for $47 and zero inventory. So why do roughly 9 out of 10 dropshipping stores fail within their first 4 months? That's not a scare number pulled from a motivational course to sell you a better course. It's the rough survival math you get when you track cohorts of new Shopify stores over their first 90 days. A small slice at 5 figures a month. Most limp along losing money on ads. And the rest quietly stop paying their $29 Shopify bill and disappear. Zero inventory sounds like zero risk. It isn't. It just moves the risk somewhere less visible, into your ad account, your return rate, and your bank balance 3 weeks before you find out whether anyone actually wants what you're selling. So if the barrier to entry is basically a laptop and a credit card, why does almost everyone who tries this lose money before they make a cent of profit? Here's where it actually starts going wrong. And it's not the product. It's the platform decision nobody thinks is a decision. You can build on Shopify for $39 a month and be selling by dinner. Or you can go self-hosted with Ecommerce, save the monthly fee, and spend the next 2 weeks fighting plugin conflicts instead of testing products. Shopify's fast lane caps you fast. 2. Transaction fees stack on top of your payment processor unless you're paying for their higher tiers. And every app you bolt on to compete, reviews, upsells, inventory sync, is another $9 to $49 a month bleeding your margin before a single sale happens. WooCommerce is cheaper long-term but slower to launch, and slow is expensive when you're trying to catch a trending product before the trend dies. Almost nobody chooses a middle tier on their first try, and almost everyone wishes they had. So let's actually tear open one of these stores and look at where the money goes, because the gap between revenue and profit in dropshipping is where most people's optimism goes to die. Say you're selling a phone accessory. You buy it from a supplier for $3.40 landed cost, including the cheap AliExpress shipping. You sell it for $24.99. On paper, that's an 86% margin. Nobody makes 86% margin in retail. Here's why. Facebook and TikTok ad costs for cold traffic in a competitive niche run $18 to $35 in spend per purchase once you account for the 90% of clicks that don't convert. Call it $22 average customer acquisition cost. Stripe or Shopify payments takes 2.9% plus 30 cents, so roughly $1 for this order. Then there's a return and refund rate, which in dropshipping typically sits between 8 and 15%, higher than normal e-commerce because shipping takes 2 to 4 weeks and buyers forget what they ordered or the item just doesn't match the ad. Build in a conservative 10% refund rate, and you're eating roughly $2.50 per average order just in expected returns. Ad app subscriptions, email marketing tools, and a virtual assistant for customer service. And you're looking at another $1.50 to $2 per order in fixed overhead once you spread it across monthly volume. Run the actual math. $24.99 in revenue, minus $3.40 cost of goods, minus $22 average ad spend, minus $1 in processing, minus $2.50 in expected refunds, minus roughly $1.50 in overhead. That store isn't clearing 86%. It's losing $5.41 on the sale that supposedly made it money. One documented case study. A home goods dropshipping store doing $50,000 a month in revenue reported a net margin after all channel costs of just 6%, $3,000 a month in actual profit on $50,000 moving through the business. That's not a lifestyle business. That's a part-time job with worse hours and none of the security. The naive hook promised you 86%. The real number, once every fee finishes taking its cut, sits closer to 6%. And here's the part that should really worry you. Growth doesn't fix this. It's tempting to think the answer is just sell more. So where does more actually get you? This is a scaling trap, and it's specific to paid acquisition businesses like dropshipping. Your first 100 customers come from your cheapest audience, the people Facebook's algorithm identifies as most likely to buy your exact product with minimal nudging. Scale past that audience, and the platform starts reaching further, showing your ad to colder, less interested people, and your cost per purchase climbs. It's not unusual to see CAC rise 30 to 60% as you triple ad spend, because you exhausted the cheap segment and are now paying to convince skeptics. Meanwhile, your support costs scale linearly or worse. More orders means more "where's my package" tickets, more refund requests, more chargebacks, while your margin per order was already razor thin. Growth is not the same thing as profit. Plenty of dropshipping stores have scaled from $5,000 to $50,000 a month in revenue and gone from marginally profitable to burning cash, because a 10th order was never as cheap to acquire as the first. So if most customers barely cover their own acquisition cost, who's actually paying the bills? Segment any dropshipping customer base, and you'll find the same three tiers. The bottom tier, call it 60% of buyers, orders once, spend the average order value, and never comes back. They cost the most to acquire relative to what they spend and often barely break even. The middle tier, maybe 30%, orders twice within 90 days, usually because a retargeting ad or an email flow catches them at the right moment. Their acquisition cost is already sunk, so the second order is almost pure margin. Then there's the top 5 to 10%, repeat buyers who found product they genuinely love, or customers upsold into a bundle or subscription-style replenishment offer. And this tier can generate 3 to 5 times the average order value of everyone else combined. The entire profitability of a dropshipping store usually rests on that top slice. The pricing psychology exists specifically to manufacture more of them. The buy 2, save 15% prompt at checkout, the post-purchase upsell page, the abandoned cart email, with a ticking discount countdown. None of that is about serving the customer better. It's about converting a break-even transaction into a profitable one before the browser tab closes. Now let's talk about the part nobody controls, no matter how good their product or their ads are. The platform itself. You don't own your customers. Meta owns the audience you're renting access to. Shopify owns the storefront. Your payment processor owns the decision of whether to release your money at all. This is where dropshipping's invisible costs live. Payment processors like Stripe and PayPal routinely place new or fast-scaling stores on reserve, holding back 10 to 30% of revenue for 90 days or more, specifically because dropshipping has a chargeback rate higher than typical retail, driven by that same slow shipping, buyer's remorse pattern. Scale from $5,000 to $20,000 a month too quickly, and there's a real chance a processor freezes 15 to 20% of your cash flow overnight, precisely when you need it to reinvest in ads. Then there's the ad account itself. Meta can suspend an ad account for a policy violation you didn't know you committed, and there's often no human to appeal to for days. Sometimes it never comes back. Shopify's own fee structure stacks quietly, too. Transaction fees on top of payment processing, unless you're on their higher price plans, effectively a tax for not paying them more elsewhere. You're not running a business on your own platform. You're a tenant on someone else's, and the lease can be terminated without notice. Before any of this even starts generating revenue, there's a build-out cost almost nobody budgets for: the Shopify subscription. A theme, if the free ones don't cut it, $20 to $350. 5 to 8 apps for reviews, upsells, email, and inventory sync, averaging $150 to $300 a month combined. A logo and basic brand kit, $50 to $500 depending on whether you do it yourself or hire out. LLC formation and a business bank account to avoid commingling funds and to look legitimate to payment processors, $150 to $800 depending on the state. And then the real cost center, testing ad creative to find a winning angle before you find a winning product, because most products fail in their first 3 to 5 creative variations. Budget $300 to $1,500 in pure testing spend before you find something that converts. And that's if you're disciplined about killing losing ads fast. Add it up, and most people are $500 to $2,500 deep before the business produces its first dollar of actual profit. And that's assuming no early chargebacks eat into that number further. There's also a time cost that mirrors permit delays in a physical business. It typically takes 2 to 6 weeks of testing before a store finds a product market fit signal worth scaling. And every one of those weeks is ad spend against an improving concept. Now, picture the week everything breaks at once, because eventually it does. Your top performing ad gets flagged and your account is suspended pending review. No warning, no timeline. The same week, your payment processor flags unusual volume from the sales spike that ad was driving and places a reserve on 20% of incoming funds. A supplier's shipping delay stretches a 2-week delivery window to 5 weeks, and a customer posts a public review calling the store a scam. It gets 40,000 views before you see it. Then Meta rolls out another targeting restriction. part of the ongoing fallout from Apple's iOS privacy changes that already made cold audience targeting dramatically less precise industry-wide, and your cost per purchase jumps overnight. None of these problems are hypothetical edge cases. Ad account suspensions, processor reserves, and algorithm updates each happen to a meaningful share of active stores every single month. And the customers you lose in a week like that don't necessarily come back once the algorithm stops favoring you or once your public review score takes a hit. Trust once spent isn't cheap to rebuild. Compare that fragility to who you're actually competing against. Amazon alone processes over 4,000 items sold per minute globally, with logistics infrastructure, next-day shipping, and negotiating leverage on shipping rates that a solo dropshipper will never touch. Amazon can absorb a bad month. It can run a product at a loss to win the customer relationship long-term. A one-person dropshipping store cannot. You can't win on price against a company that can order in the millions of units. You can't win on ad budget against companies with dedicated in-house.
Media buying teams optimizing spend 24 hours a day. You can't win on algorithmic favor because the platform has no loyalty to you. It favors whoever spends more. What you can win on is speed and specificity. Launching and killing a product test in 72 hours while a corporate buyer is still in a planning meeting, and finding an audience so narrow that no big player considers it worth their attention. Here's the part almost nobody selling you a dropshipping course will tell you, because it undercuts the pitch. The store itself is rarely the most profitable part of the business. The real margin often sits in what's adjacent to it. A branded, repeatable version of the product. Moving from generic dropshipping to a private label version with your own packaging can push margins from 6% to 25 or 30% because you're no longer competing on price with 5 other stores selling the identical AliExpress listing. A subscription or replenishment offer for consumable products can turn a one-time $25 sale into $200 of lifetime value from the same customer at a fraction of the acquisition cost since you already own the relationship. And selling the audience itself. Email list monetization through affiliate partnerships, once you've built 5,000 to 10,000 engaged subscribers, can generate more monthly profit than the underlying store ever did, because it has no cost of goods at all. 1 unit of email list revenue can be worth 10 or more units of core product revenue, because it carries almost no marginal cost. So what does a year of this actually look like, run twice from the same starting point? Say you launch with $2,000 in a bad month, and by month 12 you're doing $40,000 a month in revenue. In the optimistic version, you found a winning product by week 3 instead of week 8. You built genuine brand loyalty that dropped your return rate to 6%. You negotiated a better supplier rate as volume grew. You diversified onto TikTok early before it got saturated, and you kept ad account backups, so a single suspension never cost you more than a few days. Net margin lands around 18%. On $40,000 a month, that's $7,200 in monthly take-home, and a business that's genuinely sellable at the end of the year. In the realistic version, the same $40,000 month happens, but ad costs crept up 25% industry-wide as more competitors piled into your niche. A policy change cost you 9 days of ad account downtime mid-quarter. Your return rate sat at 12% because you never fixed a sizing issue, and a chargeback wave from one bad batch of inventory ate another 2 points of margin. Net margin lands closer to 4%. On the same $40,000, that's $1,600 a month, barely above minimum wage once you count the hours spent testing ads and answering support tickets. Same revenue number on the top line. A $5,600 gap in what actually reaches your bank account, purely from execution and luck stacking one direction or the other. So you can still start a dropshipping store for $47 and zero inventory. That part was never the lie. The lie was what zero inventory implied, that low overhead meant low risk. It didn't remove the risk. It just moved it out of a warehouse and into an ad account, a payment processor's reserve policy, and a return rate you don't control. The real product being sold in dropshipping was never the phone case or the kitchen gadget. It was access to an audience you rent on a platform that owes you nothing at a price that goes up the moment you actually start winning. $47 gets you in the door. What happens after that door closes behind you is the only part of the pitch nobody puts in the ad.